Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? I'm Chantel Chand. Happy Thanksgiving, and we do appreciate you rocking with us on this holiday Thursday. We got a lot to get on today. Geno apologized. And also, the Raiders and Chargers, is it going to be just like that Monday Nighter that we saw early in the season? We're going to break it all down on today's episode.
Raider Nation, what's happening? Q Myers here. Happy Thanksgiving. First and foremost, we're going to get your Thanksgiving holiday started the right way and also talk about Tom Brady, his influence, and how him and Chip Kelly and this whole thing came together. That's coming up.
Raider Nation, happy Thanksgiving. Whether you're cooking or eating Chinese food, it's going to be a good day. We're going to talk Raider football, get you pumped up for this Raiders-Chargers preview. This happens right now.
Raider Nation, it's time. This is the Raiders Squad. Everything Las Vegas Raiders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Death Star in the desert. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Commitment to excellence starts here. The Raiders Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? Happy Thanksgiving. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. Also, the Locked On Network is the #1 sports podcasting network. So we do appreciate you. And also for making Locked On Raiders or the Locked On Raider Squad Show your first listen of the day. You continue to support the show even through all the tough times. So we do appreciate you helping the channel grow and the show grow. Lots to get into. In the final segment, we're going to take some time today, and Linc and Q are going to be answering some of your questions and comments. So if you're watching this on YouTube, get it in the chat right now. If you're watching or listening to this later, because we're also on the audio side. So wherever you find your shows and podcasts, we're there too. You can always drop them in the chat later. I'm actually going to be reading a couple of questions and comments from Monday's episode. So do keep in mind, we do check those comments. And coming up on the show as well, we're going to do our Do Something segment. Who needs to do something? Pretty much the whole team, but Linc and Q are going to be giving you some specific players that need to do something, or maybe coaches, in this game. Also, we're going to dive into the Raiders, Chargers. Of course, this is the second and final meeting of the year for them, this time at SoFi in LA, which is always kind of a home game, but they got to get that W in LA, right? But we got to also start off with the news and notes of today. And one of them was the fact that we all know that Geno Smith was seen throwing up the middle finger at one of the fans. It was alleged at first, but obviously, more video came out. He admitted it, and it was a big ordeal. And he did, step to the podium, and he did apologize. And he said, quote, "I would like to apologize to the fans and Raider Nation. I made a poor judgment out of frustration, and that's not an excuse. I've got to be better than that and hold myself to a higher standard. In that moment, I didn't. I'm sincerely apologetic and very sorry for doing that. I just want to make it known that those things will never happen from me again," end quote. Hearing that, what were your thoughts, Linc?
Geno Smith has been a journeyman around the league, many teams. I mean, he came out of, he came through the gauntlet that is New York, the media there. And I know it's not new to him to have the criticism that has followed him his entire career. But there are times where you got to be better and you got to be more mature. And you have to understand that you cannot allow your emotions. I've tried to tell this to every player I've ever crossed paths with. This is a physical game that you can be emotional over, but you cannot convey your emotions to the public because they won't understand truly how you feel. That's why you need to keep your emotions, contained and be a professional. You're out. This is, football's a level of entertainment. What we watch, what we analyze, that's supposed to be entertainment. Mm-hmm. We're going to be frustrated. We're paying our hard-earned money. We're supporting the team. We're doing everything that we can as fans, part of the Raider Nation. We want our players to do better. There are some times when it just doesn't happen. I've always said that there's nobody above the boo. So when the boo birds come out, players should not respond with emotion. You should respond, you know what? Yep, maybe we did stink it up today. And just take that L on your shoulder and take it in because it's going to happen. For Geno, obviously his emotions got the best of him. I saw when Gorilla posted his little thing on Instagram, how the guys coming out for the offense, Geno didn't give anybody high fives. I knew he was in his feelings right then and there. And I can understand it and I can respect it because I've seen how much stress and turmoil this man has been under. And look, it's not always the offensive line fault. Sometimes it's fault, so on and so forth. But the same point is that you cannot allow your emotions. My point is you can't allow your emotions to get the best of you. And it did in that instance. I respect the apology. I would have probably, and I'm not coach, but I would have probably sat him down for probably the first couple of plays just to show him that the fans mean something to the team and the team means something to the team. You're going to sit down because this is something that I don't expect my quarterback, my leader, to do. So you sit down for a couple series or maybe even quarter, something like that, just to show some discipline and some sense of control. But that's just me. With that being said, going forward, I'm hoping that Geno finishes off the year strong and healthy. He's taking so many shots. He's pulling himself off the ground. He's limping a lot more. I don't know if he finishes the season. That's not for me to tell, but we're taking it one game at a time. So Chantel and Q, that's my 2 cents. What are your thoughts, Q?
Yeah, standing there right, when he gave that apology after Vinny asked the question, it was just like, okay, it's kind of what I expected him to say. What else is he going to say that, hey, I was beefing with another fan or this, that, and the other? He's going to try to take the humble role. It's just something that shouldn't have happened, right? And I hate that, especially because Raider Nation, I know there's a lot of, other fan bases that are very passionate, but I see the way that Raider Nation and Lincoln does too. We're there in Allegiant Stadium. We're at the torch, and we see how Raider Nation comes in early. They're fired up. They're pumped up. They're supporting their team no matter what the record is, no matter how bad a player may be playing. They're always supporting that player. And then just to see that kind of response, and like, I get it. You're not always going to be rah-rah. You're not always going to be super happy. But, Raider Nation's trying to dap you up before the game, and, you can give them a courtesy dap. You can, it's just one of those things. It just makes it feel like that he's not necessarily really a Raider. Right. It's Raider. The Raiders embrace Raider Nation. That's one of the most special parts about the team and the fan base is the fan base. Right. And just everything that they bring to the table. And that's why I'm, so proud to be a member of Raider Nation, because I know what that means. And I always say, and Lincoln knows for playing for the team, that it's different, man. There's 31 other teams in the league, and then there's the Raiders. And so it was disheartening to see him have that kind of reaction to a fan base that gives everything that they can to support him and support the team. And I'm with Lincoln. I would have no problem if they sat him down. I wouldn't have no problem if they sat him down for the whole game. I said that on the last show. Maybe that's their excuse to go ahead and get someone else into the game and check out and see what they can do. If they sat him down for a series, if they sat him down for a half, quarter, whatever, I'd have no problem with that. Similar to what the Cowboys did to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, where they sat him out the first series for discipline reasons. I think it would be a nice gesture, a tip of the cap from the Raiders as a team to the fan base to say, hey, we see you. This isn't acceptable, and we got your back.
Yeah, and I wonder if they'll do that actually against the Chargers. And I'm hoping they kind of will. And you kind of mentioned it right there in terms of your sentiments, Q. They always say once a Raider, always a Raider. I just don't feel that way about Geno, just in terms of what we've seen. And, he's tried to take the high road. He's always said the right things in terms of the press conferences. But I thought that apology was a little bit insincere when I heard it. I thought he'd say a little bit more, because you can always just say, hey, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again. He's been saying that throughout the season, that things are not going to happen again. So I feel like it's a little bit of a broken record, and there's a different relationship with Raider Nation and just the fan base and the team, the players, right? No matter how bad the Raiders are, Raider Nation shows up. Even if they're down 28-0, we're still watching the game with 1 minute left in the fourth quarter, right? This is a very passionate fan base. And to do that to a fan base that shows up when the team is so bad, it's really disheartening. And I don't think I've ever seen a Raider do something like that before. And I think that's
not to our own fans. I've done it to other fans.
That's the key. Not to yeah.
Yeah, and not to Raider Nation. Look, I've done it in other stadiums, other fans, but this is before we had cameras everywhere. So now you've got to be, seriously, you got to be more mature than that and understand that there is always somebody looking at you, watching you. With a camera phone, there's always somebody there. There's nothing that's going to be done behind closed doors or in the shadows anymore. The Cowboys were putting out there how their guys were out partying and gambling the night before, right? Yeah. That's the reason why the receivers didn't start the game. So there's nothing, like I said, there's no one above the boo, and there's nothing that's going to get escaped. My grandmother used to say, anything that's said, done in the dark will eventually come to light. So Your ass will be shown one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember, Raider Nation, in the final segment, Q and Linc are going to be answering and taking some of your questions and comments before we move on to the next topic. Today's episode sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And just really quickly, the Juice, who always leaves comments as well, we do appreciate you. He says, "Happy Thanksgiving, Raider Nation," and he donated $2. So thank you so much, the Juice. We do appreciate you. We got to get on to another topic, and this has been a rumor, guys, and it was kind of, I guess, confirmed by Diana Russini, who, of course, we know how good she is in terms of being an insider for the NFL, does a lot of reporting for The Athletic as well, and she had tweeted out, "I'm told Tom Brady was a big advocate for bringing in Chip Kelly to run the Raiders offense and has shared with some people close to him his disappointment in the team's overall performance. His frustrations go beyond the offense too." So this was the rumor that was kind of going around, that Tom Brady brought in Chip Kelly, which posed the question, who's really making the decisions here on the team? Because we don't really know. Now, when you hear that Tom had a big influence on bringing Chip in, do you kind of feel like you could have seen the disconnect as well between Pete and Chip then? Because that's not a head coach bringing in one of his guys, Q.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and that's what I've been talking about for a while. I felt like that there was a disconnect, and Lincoln brought it up on the last show that he felt like he was surprised that Chip got fired because he felt like he was untouchable, and that's for that reason alone. Look, the order of operations is just incorrect, and it's been incorrect with this Raiders organization, and they've got to figure that out. They've got to be aligned. The GM, the head coach have to be aligned. They have to be on the same timeline. The offensive coordinator needs to be brought in by the head coach, not an arranged marriage. Like, when does arranged marriages really work, right? I mean, they just don't. When you're pairing a coach and another coach, or you're bringing in this head coach and he's going to pair up with this GM, like, these kind of things don't work, right? You've got to let the GM hire the coach and go on so far and so forth, and let the head coach hire his staff, and then let that offensive coordinator bring in his staff. But it just seems like all this was put together. Pete Carroll was one guy's hire. Chip Kelly was Tom Brady's hire. Brendan Carroll obviously came with Pete. I mean, it just seems like so much was put together. And it's funny, on the outside looking in, before you kind of know all the details of what was going on and how it all came together, it's like, man, there's a lot of sharp football minds in this building. What could go wrong? Well, everything, because it wasn't put together the same way. And if I'm in a position and I think that Lincoln's my boss, but he actually can't tell me what to do, am I really going to respect him? Probably not, right? Because I'm going to do my own thing, because I'm like, oh, well, I mean, Big Link's Big Link, but he can't tell me what to do, right? I got hired by someone above him. That kind of stuff doesn't work, and that's what it ended up feeling like, and that's what Diana Rossini was talking about in that piece.
Much to Q's point, and I've talked about this extensively, my vision of the natural state of an organization is that the head coach is supposed to be the head coach. Obviously, the general manager is the general manager, but the head coach and the general manager need to have a mutual respect, to where the head coach can go to the general manager or as his top scout or whoever it is and say, look, this is what I need to make things right. This is what I want. And he has to also have the communication with his defensive and offensive coordinator. But I think it goes through the head coach. That's why I've always believed a head coach is a manager. I don't want him calling plays. I don't want him, worried about personnel. I think he's a manager. I want him to manage the game. I want him to know what we're going to do. Are we going to kick it, or are we going to go for it on fourth down? These are things I want him to manage and understand the energy that he feels on the sideline, and allow his coaches to do their job. And then at first, I was really excited about Chip Kelly coming, because the perspective of him being creative and bringing a different shine of light to the Raiders offense was welcome. It just didn't translate. And so coaches coach, players play. If I hear on the other side that, I didn't have the personnel that I needed, we go back to my original point. You were hired in February. Why didn't you get it?
Right.
And where's that disconnect between him and the head coach? Why don't you have the personnel to be successful? If you sat there and you told, as Q talked about when he had, pre-draft meetings, they were happy with the offensive line. You understand this offensive line is a mess. And you're playing with 3 backups right now because of the injuries and stuff like that. So there's inconsistencies there. The troubles that have befuddled this offense and this team have only translated into 2 wins.
Yep.
That's where we are right now. The season's over. We're looking at the draft board. We're out scouting college talent. That's where we are at Thanksgiving. And I did not think that was going to be the point.
No.
I mean, I didn't think they were going to be there. They are really one of the worst teams in the league. And it pains me to say that, because as much respect as I had for this organization and as much as I expected out of this organization, I didn't expect them to be running for a Super Bowl, but I did expect them to have more wins than they did last year. And it's not looking like that. So it's disheartening. It's disappointing. I feel bad for the Raider Nation. I feel bad for the team. Yep. I see these guys going out there and trying. It's not like they're not trying. And it's not like the coaches aren't trying their job, but it's not good enough. It's not NFL caliber talent. So something had to happen. With that being said, now you have a new offensive coordinator. I don't know how Greg Olson's going to do in the interim. I don't know if he has as much knowledge about the possibility of running 12, 13 personnel, which the Raiders were touting at first. Or do we do a total changeup?
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's where it comes down to, Q.
Yeah, and that's not going to, they can't do a total change up at this stage of the game, right? You're already going into week 13. And that was some of the conversation we had with some of the players in the locker room yesterday is, what do you expect? It's like, well, they can't change too much up, but, I think that there'll be a bigger emphasis on the run game. Pete Carroll said Ole was with me, in Seattle. He's been around for a while. Obviously, it's the third time he's been the OC. I say that in air quotes with the Raiders. It's the second time he'll be calling the plays. He called the plays with Dennis Allen, and now he's going to be calling the plays with Pete Carroll and with Gruden. Obviously, John Gruden was the play caller. So it's not like he hasn't been around. He knows what he's working with. I think we'll see a bigger emphasis on the run game, but trust and believe. I mean, this is something, and Pete Carroll alluded to it on Monday. Like, hey, I gave Chip Kelly so much, so much room and space to do his thing because he earned that. He's got the skins on the wall, so I tried to allow it to make it work. Now, regardless if that's him just trying to save his job, right? That's a whole nother conversation or what. But now he's got the pressures on him to show that I really can run this organization to the way that I said I could when I got the job. Because now you can't blame Chip Kelly. You can't blame Tom McMahon. Right, all eyes are now on your son, Brendan Carroll, at the offensive line coordinator and coach, to make sure that he's able to do his job. And so far, that's been a underperforming unit, so that's something to pay attention to. But yeah, there's so much pressure now on Pete Carroll, and again, it's just, to me, I was surprised, Link, when it was Super Bowl week, Radio Row. We're there in New Orleans, and all of a sudden, the notification comes down that, hey man, Chip Kelly is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. It's like, wait, what? I thought he was going to Houston. Everyone in Houston thought he was going to be the Texans OC, and then the Raiders money whipped him. And if you remember, he was a guy that was in line to be the OC last year with Antonio Pierce after they failed on Cliff Kingsbury, and then Chip Kelly pulled out. And the money wasn't where it was supposed to be. He pulled out. Then all of a sudden he ended up at the front of the line again. So I mean, you could start to put everything together and see how it all came together. But there's no doubt about it that Chip Kelly was Tom Brady's guy.
Yeah, and I wonder if there was just too many chefs in the kitchen in terms of putting this together, and that's not always the best thing. Also, like, let's keep in mind, I love PG, and I hope we're able to keep him for next year. I think he deserves another shot. That's just me though, because I think you guys have both said that he's not really running the defense that he would like to run. So that's another interesting thing where, Pete hasn't really picked his talent in terms of handpicking his guys. So another thing is, if Tom is bringing in a guy like Chip Kelly, and I wanted to pose this to you both, if Tom has that big of an influence, it didn't go well. Clearly, it didn't go well. It kind of reminds me of something that we've seen before when that Tom Brady can be labeled as the GOAT, the greatest of all time in terms of being in the NFL. And there was a guy named Michael Jordan who was also like a GM as well. And it never panned out for Mike, right? Like you think about Washington, you think about Charlotte, all those draft picks, like it never panned out. And I wonder how much more influence Tom Brady is going to have when it comes to the offseason and who they end up drafting and who they end up bringing in, because we don't really know if Pete Carroll is going to be here for next season. And we've talked about how it's not good to change coaches every year, but it's going to be really interesting how the team ends off the season. And any final thoughts, guys, just in terms of, what you guys have heard? Because I didn't really expect anything like that to leak, because I feel like things are leaking now. And to me, that's kind of a weirid thing, Linc.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, go ahead, Q.
Right. There's a reason for, the leaks that are coming out right now, because right now there's people, there's coaches, there's people in this organization right now that are trying to save face. right? And so basically putting the blame on others. I mean, look, there was the Tom Pelissero report from yesterday when he was on the Rich Eisen show on ESPN that, there was times Chip Kelly was calling the wrong play or wasn't finishing off the play call. And so guys were lining up the wrong way. And Linc, going back to what we were talking about on Monday's show, where you're like, hey, Geno went one way, the blocker, and Genty went the other way, and that's basic football. Well, on that specific play, according to Tom Pelissero, again, this is just his reporting, not mine, that Chip didn't finish the play call, didn't tell Geno everything. So when Geno spit it out, he didn't spit it out correctly, and boom, boom, boom. It seemed like it was a bunch of dysfunction. So I think we're going to hear a lot more of that kind of stuff from now to the end of the season, because again, this is all, in my opinion, now Pete Carroll trying to do damage control and try to save his job because he wants to be back in 2026. There's no guaranteeing that he's going to be back next season.
If this information is correct, it's inexcusable. We're
True.
Professional.
Yeah.
This is elementary stuff. We're professionals. Everyone's got a responsibility that they owe to themselves and to their teammate and everything else. Coaches as well as team players. You're getting paid a lot of money. There's really no reason why you should look like the Keystone Cops out there,
right,
running the wrong way. And I mean, there's no excuse. And even if there's a certain miscommunication where, and you see it happens throughout the time where quarterback might go one way and miscommunication in the back. What befuddles this team and what really makes this team look bad is because it's happened a lot this season. Yeah. It's happened more times than once. Okay, you can excuse the one time. That and the fact that they're not winning and they're not scoring. You're projected as one of the highest paid offensive coordinators in the league, and you have the third worst offense. That's inexcusable. So I understood after the embarrassment loss to the Cleveland Browns, somebody had to go. I was surprised it was Chip Kelly. Like I said earlier, I didn't think he was going to be the one that was going to go, not necessarily first, but it'd be the one that's going to be one of the coaching changes. With that being said, I'll go back to my original point when we started the season. We started this podcast, guys. If we keep changing up coaches, we're going nowhere.
Right.
It's just, I mean, look, you've got to take your lumps, and this is a hard pill to swallow for me, especially to see this team struggle as much as it does. But you got to take your lumps because you've got to build something. The Raiders don't have anything built, and they keep getting these draft choices and making picks. Then they change coaches, and they come in and they let these guys go. We let go some good players that are playing well elsewhere. Yep. It's just the facts.
Yeah.
If we would have held on them, we might be in a better position. It'll be a different looking team, but it's just facts. With that being said, the Raiders still need a lot. They need to address a lot. You can't do that with a new staff per se, because you're going to get rid of stuff and try to sort of rearrange your roster either through draft or free agency. Look, they need a lot of help. They're going to do that anyways. But this coaching staff, in my opinion, needs to be the one who does it.
Yeah, and we'll kind of see how that unravels throughout the end of the season. If the Raiders can get another win, it's looking really tough. And the Chargers also need this victory because their schedule is really tough until the end of the season as well. So I don't think they're going to take it easy or anything on the Raiders coming up this Sunday.
But the question to ask before you go, Chantel.
Yeah.
Do we want another win?
No.
Do we want 2 more wins? See that? Look, it's what happened last year.
Those players in the locker room need it. I get it.
And trust me, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you've been there, done that. I'm just the guy sitting on the couch. So, but yeah, they need it. But for, all intents and purposes in talking about the draft, obviously you don't want it.
Yeah. I want them to be competitive. I don't want the game I don't want them to get embarrassed. I don't want it to be a blowout. I want them to be competitive. I want them to play a close game. And I want them to not have too many turnovers. I want the defense to ball out, but I don't actually want them to win, if that makes any sense. I want to be happy watching them. I don't want, you know what I mean? I want them to have a good game where they're not embarrassed, because there's been like 4 games this year as a Raiders fan that's been really, really hard to watch. And I don't want that to happen to them again. Right. Like those are really tough Sundays or Monday nighters or Thursday nighters that happen. So that's how I kind of have felt since they played the Chargers. I told you guys since week 2, right? I kind of saw how this was going to go, but nonetheless, the Raiders are going to be playing against the Chargers on Sunday. And quickly, we're going to get into the injury report. And for the Raiders, they've got Max dealing with a knee injury. He was limited in practice yesterday. Tyler Lockett dealing with an ankle issue. He practiced in full, though. Michael Mayer and Jordan Meredith both dealing with ankle issues. They did not participate. Trey Tucker was dealing with a knee. He was limited in practice. As for the Chargers, it looks like Omarion Hampton, his ankle, he was limited. Trey Harris dealing with the jaw, he was limited. And, not too much for the Chargers, but The Raiders got some guys on there, but I don't think anything to like a major concern. But coming up on the other side, guys, we're going to be breaking down the game for the Raiders and Chargers. Q and Linc will be giving you their keys to victory, their X factor, and of course, we'll all be giving our predictions for the games. And remember, in the final segment, Q and Linc are going to be taking some of your questions and comments. So if you have any, please drop them in the chat now. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this, you can always drop some comments or questions later, and we might get into them on another episode. But keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, remember, I mentioned this in the final segment, Q and Linc are going to be taking some of your questions and comments. So if you're on YouTube right now watching this, drop them in the chat. And of course, if you're listening to this, you can always do that later on, and we might get to it on another episode. So the Raiders and Chargers, that Monday nighter, one of the toughest games of the year. That's when I gave up week 2. And I hope it's not a rematch. I hope it's not like that again. But this was in LA.
After week 2?
I told you that.
You gave up after week 2?
It was that frustrating for me. I know you're shaking your head there. I know you're shaking your head there too. But that's when I got really upset, because I was like, this doesn't look good. This O-line looks terrible. Like, because I remember I've been saying week 1's always that weird week. Like it never tells you anything about the season.
Right.
But I will say, there were a lot of takeaways from that game. I don't know if the Raiders have gotten better from week 2, but one thing's for sure, they got to get the run game going, right? Greg Olsen is going to be taking over as offensive coordinator. Just in terms of keys to victory, Q, we'll go with you first. What do the Raiders have to do to win against the Chargers?
Well, I mean, they got to do a lot, but I think that, first and foremost, I think what we're going to see is emphasis on the run game. So I think you're going to see Genty touch the ball 25 times. And I think that that's what Pete Carroll's been trying to preach for the longest to Chip Kelly, and it hasn't gone through. I know that the offensive line isn't very good. I've said this 1,000 times, and Linc's backed me up 1,000 times on it. The offensive line, they rather run block than pass pro. It's just as simple as that. Regardless if they're not very good or not, that's where they can at least dig their heels in and try to make a little bit of headway. And I think that Greg Olsen is going to try to have that emphasis. So, they have to be able to run the ball. Look, the Chargers could be had on the ground. They absolutely can. I mean, their defense hasn't been some Charger-esque, like phenomenal defense.
As good as it was last year either.
Right, exactly what you expect from a Jim Harbaugh-led team. It hasn't been on that level, so they can be had for sure. I think first and foremost, they have to have a dedication to the run. And if Genty starts having success, guess what? Things will open up for Brock Bowers, who that's probably the one team he hasn't had a ton of success against so far in the league is the Chargers. He could do that. He could have a big game, but they've got to be able to get that run game going.
The Chargers were the first team this season to really expose Geno Smith's flaws versus the cover 2 defense.
Yep.
And it followed that pattern throughout the season. More teams picked up, and that's why the offense continued to struggle even after that game. So the keys to win, in my estimation, Chantel, to answer your question, would be, first of all, you got to control the time of possession. And the best way you do that by running the football. Understand this, like Q's point, the Chargers can be had on the run, but you have to make it go. More importantly, you have to control the time of possession, control the clock, get first downs, and most important, get touchdowns. Cannot rely on threes from here on out in this season if you want to be competitive. You've got to find a way to generate touchdowns, whether it's called for taking long shots from the middle of the field or whatever, or being more efficient when you're in the red zone, pushing into the end zone. You've got to score touchdowns. I think the way the defense has played, especially the last month, is some change. They're giving you plenty of opportunities to make it happen. And whether it's through turnovers, I know we don't have a whole lot of turnovers, but we have had key turnovers in critical times that could have influenced the outcome of a game. You got to take full advantage of that. The Raiders won the turnover battle against the Browns last week, but didn't win the game. and couldn't really score until that garbage time at the end of the game. So they got to find a way to stay competitive in the beginning and the middle of the game rather than falling behind trying to catch up because you're just not built that way. So, I mean, we'll break down a few other things, but for the most part, the offense needs to own time of possession and they need to score touchdowns. That's my key to victory.
Yeah, and the other thing that they've got to do is get pressure on Justin Herbert, right? Yeah. I mean, he's been a guy that's been sacked 38 times. Geno's only been sacked 3 more times than him. I mean, think about that. Think about how many times Geno Smith has been sacked. Justin Herbert's been sacked just about as many, right? And so that offensive line is leaky. We know that they're all pro, they're all world tackles aren't there. So they've got they got a patchwork offensive line that they're putting together. I want to say that they said it's a double-digit version of the offensive line, right? So they've put together and pieced and matched a bunch of different guys out there trying to find the right combination that works. So this is a game where, Max Crosby could end up having a hell of a game. He could be a big impactful player like he always is, but really go out there and eat. Guys like Malcolm Kuntz, who got a sack last week, maybe he can step up and have another one, a repeat performance. Tyree Wilson, who actually, as much as we talk about Tyree, hasn't really had a bad season. I mean, for the time that he's been in there, the reps that he's been in, it hasn't been as much as he, probably would like to play, but he's actually been pretty effective in what he's been doing. So there's chances and opportunities for that defensive line to get after Justin Herbert. And I mean, he's thrown way more interceptions this year than he did a year ago. So again, this is not a team that's perfect. And remember, they're coming off a game where they got whooped. Now they've had a bye week, but they got whooped by Jacksonville, 35-6. I mean, that was embarrassing for them. And they've had, a week and a half, 2 weeks now to sit on that and think about that. So they're going to obviously want to get that taste out of their mouth. And the Raiders could really ruin their holiday, their Thanksgiving weekend with a loss, giving them a loss. They need a win, right? They need to get this win to continue with their playoff hopes, where the Raiders, they don't have playoff hopes. Now all they could do is be spoilers the rest of the way.
And to follow Q's point, Chantel, real quick, Justin Herbert, there's been a lot of pressure. Harbaugh's put a lot of pressure on his shoulders this year because he thought that they were going to have a running game. But with the absence of the offensive line, the running game has been really non-existent for the Chargers. So they've had to rely on Justin Herbert to throw the football. With that being said, the Raiders have got to be extremely disciplined with the rush lanes. You've got a mobile quarterback who's not afraid to run. Harbaugh doesn't want him to run because he has injuries, but what's already built up in a man's mind is going to be it's going to happen. So he will take off and run. And you don't want him to hurt you with his legs like we've seen him do in the past. So you got to be really disciplined with your rush lanes. More importantly, you got to get after him quickly. Whether you blitz him and expose the secondary, that's a question whether Patrick Graham's going to have to decide, but I still think you can get them with 4 rushers. Just make sure they have to be T-high and ready to go.
And of course, we've talked about the O-line a lot. Jordan Meredith is dealing with an injury. Obviously, it's an ankle injury. He didn't participate yesterday. We don't know. We're going to find out, what his status is today. But say he's not able to go. Do we see Alex Kappa back at center again? Like,
why'd you make that face when you said that?
Because I was disgusted. Okay. I was hoping a guy like Caleb Rogers would come into the game, and I'm still wondering that. And that was actually my next question.
Don't get me started on that one.
Well, no, I want you to get started on that one because it was my next question. Because we're waiting for these guys to get opportunities. Because both of you have said, how are we supposed to assess these players if they're not on the field? And I think that's the biggest thing. So, Q, do you think we're going to finally see a guy like Caleb Rogers?
I think they would have to, right? But I thought that they would have put him in last game, right? When Jordan Meredith goes down with the injury and the man is on the field, warming up, getting set, getting ready to run in, and then they pull him back, and the guy that they just benched, they put him back in. Like, none of that makes sense to me. So I've been on this soapbox about, if you can't put your top 100 pick in at this stage of the game, week 13, then you're telling me you just completely whiffed on that pick. If you're telling me his practice is so bad, which is what we're hearing, right? Remember you said the leaks that are coming out, right? We're hearing all these now. His practice habits are so bad. He can't do basic stuff. So he can't do basic stuff, but you found it a necessity to get him in the 3rd round, a top 100 pick. I'm not buying that. I go to the barbershop every Saturday, and when someone says something that's out of pocket, someone out of nowhere will say, hey, man, ring the bell on him. Ring the bell. So in this scenario, when I hear you tell me, and I don't mean you, but when I hear people say, well, his practice habits, he's not ready to get in the game. He can't go out there, and he's a top 100 pick. All I say is ring the bell on him because I'm not buying it.
Okay, here's the conflict. I believe the young guy should be playing. Okay. But I also believe we go back to a point that we made earlier in the show. You got to question what you really want. This team, Q, as you mentioned, this team needs a win. If you put the young guys in there, there's probably sending a message. We're not trying to win. We're just trying to get some play. It could be taken that way. I know the coaches don't intend it that way, but it can be taken that way. That, you're just giving up for the rest of the season. It's noteworthy to say that this is essentially has to happen. You got to play the young guys sooner or later because you got to know what you have. You got to see the value in your draft class and what they did and see if they can contribute to your team in the future. Does that send the wrong message to the players? Well, are we not trying to win? Does that cause other people to quit? I say that because I've been in situations like this where I knew the writing was on the wall. I knew I was losing a coach at the end of the year. Right. And how was the rest of the team reacting? I've been on teams that have quit, that have literally just, I'm just going through and collecting the check. I've been on teams like that. I know how damaging it can be and how frustrating it can be. So with that being said, going forward, yes, these young guys need to play. I just don't know in capacity you do it. Because the coach has yet to pull the trigger that way yet. Does he do it now? Does he do it when he's on the road at SoFi? Does he do it against the Chargers? That's anyone's guess. We'll have to wait and see. But I agree with your points. I believe they should play. I just don't know the message that it sends if you put them all in.
Well, this is the thing, just to kind of double down on that. You spent all of training camp. You spent all of preseason. You spent this whole time so far this year telling me that Jordan Meredith, his best position is center. That's what you told me. And okay, I agree. Coaches coach, players play. So they're smarter than me. All right, they know what they're doing. All right, so you put JPJ over at right guard, which I have no problem with. That could be his best position. But you told me that Meredith is the best center. But yet when you had the first opportunity to move him to guard when JPJ went down, that's what you did instead of keep him at his best position, right? And then you decided when he goes down as the guard that you're going to bring in Alex Kappa and put him at the guard position, and you're going to have Putnam that you just benched back at the center. And oh, by the way, earlier you're going to put Alex Kappa at the center position, who hasn't played center since his rookie year in the preseason, but you had him playing that as opposed to playing the guy that you spent all year telling me is the better center. So the rhyme and reason wasn't there to me. So that's why I'm calling and I'm ringing the bell on Caleb Rogers can't play. I think he, quite frankly, could be better than all these guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a chance he could actually be a really good guard. We just don't get a chance to see it. I see the young man there at the facility. He's got a positive attitude, great attitude. He's ready to go. He's chomping at the bit to get this opportunity. I don't think that anyone on that team in that locker room would flinch if he was thrown into the mix. I don't think that they would. Again, that's just my outside perspective. Coaches coach, players play. They see a lot more than I do, clearly. But that's just what gets me fired up about this situation.
I will double down what I've always said when it comes to this league. There is no way that you can develop players. You can't develop players. Your amateur sort of way of seeing guys is watching them in college. That's the way that you understand these guys, and that's why you pay your scouts big money to go out there and draft right, and for the draft room or to give me the right players. But you can't sit on the sideline and develop in this league. It just doesn't work that way. Right. Even if you're playing scout team every day, you're doing someone else's play. You're not doing what your offense play.
Right.
So you're not developing. You're just out there. And as a body, it does you no good. There are two positions, in my opinion, that need as many snaps as humanly possible. It's offensive line and quarterback. And the best way that you get with offensive line, throw his ass out there. Figure it out. We drafted you for a reason. We brought you in for a reason. Get out there and play. You're going to make your mistakes. We'll try to cover it up as a team. We'll try to hold you accountable for what happens, but hopefully you grow week in and week out. But you're never going to see what you have if you're sitting on the sideline holding a clipboard. It just doesn't work. Can't do it with a quarterback either. Got to go out and play. You're going to take your lumps. You got to get used to the speed of the game. You have to understand the game. You can't, and that's why quarterbacks that are drafted high go into the game a lot sooner because they're obviously needed. The Raiders are going to be in that position next year when they have to get their franchise quarterback. But in the interim, you need to see what you have in the cabinet. So you need to go have everything on the field at one time.
Yeah, and you said you can't really develop guys if they're not on the field. And so that kind of poses the question, if I'm Pete Carroll and I want my son to have a successful coaching career, which right now it's not going so well, wouldn't you want Brennan Carroll to put his guys out there? Because isn't one of his jobs to develop these guys on the O-line? And so that's the thing. Yeah. So that's kind of why I'm like really curious about why they wouldn't want to put in Caleb Rogers. Like if I'm Pete and I'm Brennan Carroll, I would want to put him in to be like, hey, we're trying to develop this guy. That's a part of his coaching role, is to develop these young guys on the O-line. So it's a little bit frustrating to watch. We'll see if Caleb Rogers is going to get into the game, maybe even at the half, depending on how the game goes. We'll definitely see, and we'll see if Jordan Meredith ends up playing. Q, do you have any information on if he will play or not?
I have no idea. I mean, look, you remember a couple games ago against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, he wasn't even active, right? I mean, he was inactive. At least, a step in the right direction, I guess, this last week. At least he was in uniform, right? He had his helmet on. He had an opportunity to go into the game. He didn't get into the game. I'm assuming that sooner rather than later, they're going to play him just because they have to, at some point, just to see what they have. But man, it's been tough sledding just to see the way that this has gone and developed. And another thing that they could be doing, especially with the struggles that the offensive line, has had, how come they can't have him come in as like a Thayer Munford role, right?
Yeah.
When Thayer Munford was there, when you saw him coming in, he wasn't going to catch a pass, but he could be an extra offensive lineman, especially when you got a team like the Browns in town with Myles Garrett. You can always use an extra blocker, right? How come the Raiders haven't been able to get creative and just at least get him on the field and have him help out in a position of need? It's not like they have some world-class offensive line. They ain't got Lincoln Kennedy. They ain't got Steve Wisniewski. They ain't got these guys. They don't have all these guys running through the tunnel right now. They've got guys that are trying to find their way. They've got a guy in DJ Glaze that might be the better guard than he ever is tackle when it's all said and done. Like, we don't know. It's a makeshift offensive line. I can tell you right now, I was pleasantly surprised to see Colton Miller walking around the locker room yesterday looking pretty good.
Ooh.
Right, so he might come back sooner rather than later. I was pleasantly surprised to see that JPJ has shed his cast that he had on. He's still on a scooter. His ankle still looks nice and green, but he not in a cast anymore. So, that's a positive right there. I feel like the season was lost for JPJ, and it might be, but it looks like Colton Miller is going to get back sooner rather than later. Stone Forsythe told us yesterday, hey, man, I'm on borrowed time. Colton Miller could be back any minute now. I'm out there trying to hold it down while he's gone. Like, I'm out here on borrowed time. So, at least looks like they've got reinforcements on the way, but it's not like this is some Pro Bowl offensive line and that these guys are untouchable. No, these guys, you want to talk about competition and compete and all this? All right, well, the competition's right there.
Much to Q's point, I would have had Rodgers in as a fullback. I would have lined up an I-back formation, and that would help protect my tackles from the exposures of the defensive ends going out of gun, going from under center, and have an I-back formation. You can run, you could play action out of that, and Rodgers didn't. The fullback doesn't even have to go out. He can stay in and help with added protection. If you can just direct him to the edge of what he's going to protect and help chip. And that way you can get Ashton Jeanty out of the backfield more effectively rather than having him chip and slip out. So there are opportunities, there are options there. I just don't know what they're going to make of it. And we are speculating heavily what the Raiders should do or what the Raiders can do. We just haven't seen it. So you first of all, you have to think about the mindset. I know Pete Carroll has always said in all his press conferences, I'm trying to win football games. I'm trying to put the best people out there. And that's why the way we evaluate talent. So that's why I go back to my theory, coaches coach, players play. And I'm trusting the coaches to make the right decision on the players to put out there. However, I think it's a huge disadvantage. My opinion is that it's a huge disadvantage if you don't play the young guys enough to where you can see what they can do in game time situations, not practice scenarios where you're setting up situations for the offense or the defense to be successful. The offense and the defensive players that have been on to this team that are young, haven't got a lot of play, need to get a lot of play because you need to see their value, their worth if they're going forward if you want to keep them around. There are a lot of guys, a lot of veterans on play at contracts, 1 or 2 years deal. You're going to have to make decisions there. Coming back, you want to have this team as harmonious as possible going into the future so they can play better. They haven't created that harmony. There's too much confusion. There's too much other ineffective play that is going on, other than ineffective play that's going on that we can shake a stick at. So they've got to calm things down and find a way to win a football game. But again, we go back to my original point. Do we want them to win a football game? Do we want them to take them out of position? Because through our evaluation, what if there's only 1 or 2 players that are really worthy of that top 5 pick? You know what I mean? And then you're drafted off of value. I don't want to get long-winded, so I'll stop there.
Yeah.
Look, I'll say this, Linc, man. It's so funny that, whenever you say coaches coach, players play, no matter what conversation I'm having, no matter what platform I'm on, no matter what it is, and it's funny to say, Lincoln Kennedy always pops up on my shoulder and always reminds me, Q, coaches coach, players play. I can't get away from that, so I always try to trust the coaches. And I think what you say, and then I want to question them, and I want to criticize them, and I want to say they don't know what they're doing. And then Lincoln Kennedy pops up. Boop. with his guns out today and says, "Coach is coach,
Yeah.
players play." So
Guns out, guns out.
that's
Sorry.
like my head.
Yeah, we knew you were going to be bringing the heat because you had the guns out today, so that's a good thing.
I'm cooking. It's Thanksgiving, all right?
Sure. No. But here's the thing. Someone that's probably going to have to bring the guns out. We always talk about X factors, right? Who will be the X factor in this game, or who do you think should be the X factor in this game to kind of swing it in favor for the Raiders, Linc?
Geno Smith has to have a good game. Next to perfect game.
Yep.
I'm putting it on the quarterback.
Yep.
The quarterback is the focal point when everything goes right. He's also the focal point when everything goes wrong. I'm putting it on the quarterback. He needs to have a near perfect game. He needs to have some sense of redemption to this team, because this team, the Chargers, made him look silly in week 2.
Yeah,
they really did. They took everything he did in week 1 and said, "Oh yeah, we know where you're going on with the football. Pick." Or and they couldn't protect and go back to the game.
Yep.
Exactly. So it started off in the hole by throwing a pick in the opening play of the game, just like they did when they had the special teams debacle against the Commanders way back then. Started in the hole. This team can ill afford to have it. So I'm putting my pressure on Geno Smith. You have to go out there and have a near to perfect game, or show me that you are truly worthy of being a starting quarterback in the National Football League, and there's no better team to do it than the Chargers.
Yeah, and I'll stay on the offensive side of the ball as well, and I'm going to look at Ashton Genty, right? I mean, he's a guy that we met with on yesterday, and he said, "Hey, my body feels great." He has definitely not had the workload that he probably expected that he was going to have his rookie year, so he's still fresh in his mind. And I think that it's time to let him go, or not let him go, get out of there. But I mean, let him loose, right? Let him cook a little bit. Let him put the guns out like Linc's got the guns out today, right? Get him cooking a little bit, and that's what he wants. Like, I know that that's what he wants. He wants to be more active. He wants to be more heavily involved, whether it's the running game, the catching the balls out of the backfield. Like, get this guy 25 touches and see what happens. He gets in space. He gets in the end zone. Like, there's no question about him getting in the end zone. He's got 8 touchdowns on the season, 4 by the in the passing game and 4 on the ground. So obviously he can find the end zone very easily. Let him go to work. And I know that he wants to go to work. And I do think with Greg Olsen now calling the plays, I think you're going to see a heavy emphasis and a heavy dose of number 2 coming up on Sunday.
Let me ask you both something. Maybe you've seen it. Have you seen Geno audible this year?
No.
Noticeably audible. Not a check with me. This can is a check with me gesture where you call 2 plays in a huddle. When you do this, you go to the second play. That's not an audible. I'm wondering if Geno felt secure enough or confident enough with this offense to be able to do that, because there have been tons of plays from my vantage point when I'm watching the game, like, oh, don't do that. Don't run over there. Don't go. And then they run right into the teeth of it or do something like scratches my head. Like, why don't they ever get out of it? And I say that to say this. I go back to my original point. Geno has to play a near perfect game. I'm wondering if he has a good enough and confident enough relationship with Greg Olsen to where if he sees it, and he knows the game well enough. He's not a rookie. He knows the game well enough to be able to change the play to be more advantageous if they have enough in their arsenal to do that. I haven't seen that all year, which is really new to me for a veteran quarterback to play. Right. Not audible, not create situations that are more beneficial to you as a player and to the offense, knowing you should be able to know what's right. I've never played with a quarterback who didn't have that ability, and I've never seen it until this year.
I'm interested in seeing what that dynamic was. Was Chip Kelly, as we know that it's all his way or the highway, right? Was Chip Kelly, was he saying, don't audible? You're not giving that freedom to be able to do that. I wonder if Ole will allow him to do that. And if he has the ability to, like, I mean, is he, the guy that they trust enough to be able to do that, at the line of scrimmage? And again, he is a veteran quarterback. This is a new team, new system, and he hasn't had a whole lot of success. They may be kind of putting the governor on him, saying, hey, like, we're going to call it, you run it, and we'll go from there, just to try to keep him out of harm's way. I don't know. Right. I mean, but I think it's a great point that you bring up, because I have not seen him audible at all this season.
One thing I've noticed we've seen, Chantel, real quick, is that I've seen reactionary football. When we've come out and in the media and us have addressed the fact that they're not getting the ball to Ashton Genty, the next game they make a conscious effort to get it Ashton Genty. You're not getting the ball to Brock Bowers, make a conscious effort to get Brock Bowers. You're so predictable in that light that teams will come up and take it away. Most notably, teams that the Raiders have played in the second half when they've seen what you wanted to do. Oh, you want to get ball to Brock Bowers? We're going to double team. We're going to take them away. Oh, you want to get the Ashton Genty? We're going to play close to the line of scrimmage. So when you throw one of those swing passes, we're hitting them right now. You're not really getting that. You're not really able to get those screen passes passes off. But so I've seen an effort for them to try to appease the players and especially get the ball to their playmakers, which I respect and appreciate. But at the same point, there are times where you go back to that. I go back to that old saying, take what the defense gives you. You got to be able to see the survey and see the whole field, because I know you're backing up and you're looking for Brock Bowers, but what if Trey Tucker's open? Right. What if Michael Mayer is open on the drag route? Get him the football. I mean, you've got enough playmakers. You just have to figure out a way, a quarterback to direct it.
Yeah, it seems like with Geno as well, he takes so long to get to his next read, right? if he's looking for Brock and Brock's not there, and I don't know how many times I've been in the press box and I'm like, Genty's wide open. Like, he's wide open with nothing but green grass, and I'll take that 8 yards and then let him have an opportunity to turn it into 20 yards, right? And it just seems like they get it to him, and they'll get it to him late, or they'll hit, they'll roll out, and it'll be a wide open wide receiver in front of him. The plays work perfectly, but he'll get it to him late. It just seems like he's a second behind, 2 seconds behind on most of these deliveries, and even on the ones that have been getting picked. And I called this out weeks ago, right? When he all of a sudden, leans back on his back foot and tries to drill it in there. I mean, it just seems like the process is not processing quick enough. It seems like it's just going a little bit slower. Lincoln, what do they always say? A thinking man is a slow man.
Absolutely.
It seems like that Geno is thinking as opposed to just going out and playing.
Yeah, or he's just missing like open wide receivers, which is like something that happens every game. And Chip was even building some screens and he would just miss them. And it'd be like, Brock Bowers is wide open. He's right in front of you. Doesn't make that read. So that's it. We'll see what Geno looks like with Greg Olsen coming up on the other side. Who needs to do something, and final predictions from Linc and Q. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show. Welcome back, Raider Nation. If you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. So, I know you said Geno is going to be the X factor, but who needs to do something? Like, who do you need to see someone do something on the field that you haven't seen do yet? Q?
I'll say Michael Mayer. How about Michael Mayer? You mentioned him before. Man, it's wild to think that he's almost done with year 3 in the league, right? He's almost already done with year 3 in the league, and we still don't know who Michael Mayer is as an NFL tight end. For one reason or the other, right? Some is out of his control. Some is, coaching. Some is just hasn't been utilized. I still don't know who Michael Mayer is. I know who Michael Mayer was at Notre Dame. I absolutely know who he was. He was one of the best tight ends in the league and in college football. And that just hasn't translated for one reason or the other. Like I said, some of it's out of his control. I would just like to see him get more involved and just to see what he could look like, especially with Brock Bowers, what that 1-2 punch could be. Right. I mean, that we've talked about the 1-2 punch at the tight end position since Darren Waller was with the Raiders.
We've seen flashes of it. We've seen flashes of it this year. Yeah,
exactly. But not consistent, not where it's like a real threat. Right. But I mean, even go back to like Darren Waller. Remember, it was like, and then Foster Moreau's there. And so he could be, a complimentary piece. That never came to fruition. Then you get Brock Bowers. You're like, oh man, Michael Mayer's already in position. Man, remember what they did to New England with Gronk and Hernandez? Like, how many times as Raider Nation, how many times as us as analysts, whatever the case may be, say, oh man, the Raiders are going to try to recreate, Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, but nice guys as opposed to guys that are doing stuff on the back streets. Like, how many times have we said that and it hasn't come to fruition? I just want to know who Michael Mayer is going to be. And I think, honestly, Big Mike wants to know who he's going to be in the National Football League. I think there's a level of frustration, but he keeps it professional. He's not pouting about it. He's not, throwing his helmet in anger and showing up and showing out because he's not, getting the touches or the attention or the balls thrown his way, or he's not being as effective as we think that he can be or he thinks he can be. He's showing up every day, working his tail off. I would just like to see what it would look like with a true just consistent attack of Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer in the passing game.
Before I answer your question, Chantel, I want to back up and reinforce a point for Michael Mayer. Look, he was a huge talent. The Raiders traded up to get him out of Notre Dame, and I saw his run blocking improve over the last couple of years. Now, I'm not sure what personal issues he had off the field. It's not necessarily my concern, but I have seen a level of professionalism in the way Michael Mayer is playing, because now the shine has been taken off of him. He was really, really touted when he first came to the league, and the Raiders got him. And now because of Brock Bowers, you're playing second fiddle, which might not be fair, but I still think they're both capable. And much to your point, Q, I thought running the 2 tight end system, because I've seen other teams do it, whether it's the Rams, the Bills, or you could go down the list, being able to run multiple tight end sets and be effective moving the football. I was expecting that to happen with the Raiders. It just hasn't come to fruition just yet. But for that part, The ones who need to do something, I need to have this offensive line, however it's made shift and however it's made up, come together and have a solid game. And what I mean by a solid game, no penalties, no missed assignments, no poor execution. Go out there and block your ass off, whether it's a run or pass. Do what you need to do, but don't cause your team to back up by, having stupid penalties. Obviously, protect your quarterback. There's been times I grabbed and held to protect my quarterback, and I will never let a defensive guy have a free shot on me, on my quarterback, as long as I'm standing. But that's just me. But at the same point, things that you can prevent: false starts, more times than not, holdings, miscues, getting up. We had guys where they're lining up off sides. We've seen offensive miscues this year that penalties that should just never. How is an offensive guy line up all sides? He lined up in the neutral zone. What the hell are you looking at? That's inexcusable. So with that being said, we just can't have those miscues. I want this offensive line to do something. I really want them to show me a level of pride. I know a lot of them were probably backups on most teams around the league, but now that you're a starter, go out there and show a level of pride. Show that you deserve to be in the National Football League. Show me something.
Yeah, and final score predictions. Do the Raiders get the win in LA? Link, we'll go with you first because you brought out the
13-9 Raiders.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. 13-9. That's ugly.
It is ugly. Yeah. We're talking about Raider football. Come on now.
That's a good point. Honestly, I don't think that the Raiders win this game. I really don't. I feel like the Chargers have so much that they're playing for. Like, they have to win this game. So I just think that there's so much riding on this for the Chargers, and especially coming off that beat down by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think the Raiders are going to still try to figure things out. And I think Greg Olsen is still going to try to get into a rhythm as a play caller. So I expect it to be a little bit kind of rough out the gates a little bit and trying to, until he gets comfortable in that role. One thing to note about it, Ole, as opposed to Chip Kelly, will be on the sideline. Chip Kelly was upstairs in the booth. Greg Olsen's going to be on the sideline. So, again, it kind of lets me know how much, this is more of a I think Pete Carroll appreciates Olsen calling the plays as more to Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly kind of did his own thing. You saw that Pete Carroll wanted Patrick Graham on the sideline. He got him on the sideline. Chip Kelly stayed in the booth. So that was just something I noticed. And Pete Carroll said on yesterday very quickly, he'll be on the sideline. So, we'll see if it makes a difference. We'll see if, not having to put a headset on and him being able to communicate directly to Geno makes things a little bit easier. I don't know. We won't know until we actually see it. I'd lie to you if I told you I thought I knew what the score was going to be. I just don't think the Raiders are going to win the game.
But I can't pick against the Raiders.
I know.
Especially the Chargers.
I don't want to pick against the Raiders at all.
I don't want to go through the division over again.
Right.
For like it was like. I'm hoping they find a way to win, but I can. And look, I'm to the fan base. Look, I love you guys, and you guys know that I'm always up straight front. I can never pick against the Raiders. I know it's bad. I can never, and I would never, ever, ever choose a Charger, Bronco, or a Chief, ever.
Yeah, no,
that's why I can't do fantasy.
Right, exactly. No, and that makes sense. And like I said, in my heart, I want to pick the Raiders every time, but my brain tells me something else, right? My brain tells me what I've been seeing until I see something that looks like it's actually a team that's capable of going out there and winning. I just can't. I feel like I'm lying to you, or I'm just blowing smoke up your backside if I just say, the Raiders are going to win. They're going to block Khalil Mack. He's not going to have a record 6-sack day, or what I mean? Like, you're talking about a team that just gave up 10 sacks to the Browns and thought that leaving Myles Garrett one-on-one with Stone Forsythe was a good idea. You know what I mean? Like that's not winning football. That's just dumb. That's just dumb.
And the Chargers' next 5 weeks is really tough. Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos. This is the game that they have to win if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. So I think the Chargers will win, but hopefully the Raiders will keep it close. Coming up on the other side, Linc and Q will be taking a couple of your questions. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're listening or watching the Raider Squad Show. Well, Raider Nation, that was a quick break. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get to some questions and comments. And this one coming in from, I just had it right over here. Okay, yeah, right over here. This is one from John.
Yeah, you are.
From John. For Q or Professor, if Pete was able to select an offensive coordinator, who do you think he would have as OC?
That's a good question.
I think it would have been someone like Darrell Bevell. Somebody that we kind of expected that it was going to be. I don't think it was going to be. I mean, I was so surprised when they hired Chip Kelly. I was like, man, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that as a Pete Carroll type guy running the type of offense that we've seen Pete Carroll run. Like a Darrell Bevell, a Shane Waldron type guy. I don't think any name that I can give you is going to get Raider Nation excited. And I mean, it just won't, because it doesn't seem like, the real creative, up and coming, innovative minds are the ones that Pete Carroll would have reached out to. He would have reached out to someone that he's comfortable with and he's got familiarity with. And those are the type of guys he's familiar with.
I'm frugal, so I don't know who's available. Who would you really want to go out there and pay and drop another $6 million for and something like that? And I don't know who that could be. I mean, I've seen in the chat they talk about Lincoln Riley, the possibility of him leaving SC. I mean, that'd be a big hire, but I don't know if you're going to go that hard. So to answer your question, I don't know who's available first and foremost. But since it's Black Friday, can't we go out there and get a tackle cheap from Amazon.com?
I don't think we want one from Amazon, but
no. Well, okay, just because it's Black Friday, they shopping at Walmart. What do we do? I'm cheap. I'm frugal.
No, yeah, for sure. I think the Raiders have been a little bit too cheap with the O-line. You know what I mean? This Hug These, I won't say the whole name. You can kind of figure that out if you're listening. Donated $10. He says, "Happy Thanksgiving to all of Raider Nation. May your homes be full of joy and loving family. I'm thankful for the nation and the real takes of this show. Y'all are real ones. I love you, Raider fans." So I'll end off by saying, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish, Q?
I'll just say ham and mac and cheese, really cheesy mac and cheese, and then pecan pie to close things out. But Hug D's real quick. That was the one that was him and Geno were the ones that were getting into it. So that was in his picture. So yeah, he's actually a really good dude. We've had a little back and forth conversation, and he kind of explained to me what happened. So shout out to Hug D's and appreciate the donation.
I make a mean mac and cheese and stuffing. That's what my kids are loving. And I was just topping off my mac and cheese when we started the show. So I got to get back in there and finish that. But I'm a big man. As you can see, I like to eat. I like to eat everything under the sun. Thanksgiving's a good day for me. So I have no issues with anything.
Yeah, for sure. Mine's yams and sweet potato pie. I can't go without either of those. But Raider Nation, thank you so much for rocking out with us on this Thanksgiving morning. We'll be back on Monday. Hopefully the Raiders are competitive, but we still got, that good draft pick. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say. All right, before we leave up out of here. Happy Thanksgiving, Raider Nation. We'll be back on Monday. And, of course, enjoy the game.